And you said that South Dakota doesn't measure those. Do you know if any other states do?
Yes, there are a number of other states that do or have been developing them. One of the earliest states that adopted phosphorus standards, I believe, is Michigan. They adopted phosphorus standards in the 70s. This was in response to issues associated with phosphorus in soap. The modern soaps that came about after World War II tended to have a lot of phosphorus in them. And it was found that in using those soaps for washing clothes, dishwashing, that this was persistent in the environment. So you'd get the foaming streams, you'd see the TV commercials with the drying Indian and looking around seeing all these really disgusting looking streams that were there. There was a move at that time to eliminate phosphorus from soaps with the exception of automatic dishwasher detergent. If you go to your store now and you pick up different bottles, you'll find they range from fairly low to upwards of 8% phosphorus in them. If you're using one of the eco brands, you may notice that you get a little more film formation on your glassware, as that just doesn't seem to do as good of a job as the higher phosphorus containing soaps over there. There's a number of states that have regulated not only the amount of phosphorus in soaps and products, there's also states that have regulated how much phosphorus that you can put on lawns. And the turf industry has also tried to manage what they have as far as fertilizers that they put on lawns in urban areas.
In the documentation that you looked at while preparing for today, did you run across any reference to bodies or groups that have attempted to reduce phosphorus-laden fertilizer around the lake?
Yes, Lake Concept Watershed Project specifically has an educational component associated with educating the public on the use of low phosphorus or no phosphorus fertilizers for lawn growth, especially on the cabins that are around the lake, and then also working with best management practices for the farmers and the agricultural land that was around the lake as well.
So some of those issues are already being addressed
by
various groups? Now, we were talking about the designated uses a little bit earlier. Who manages the designated uses of Lake Poncet?
My understanding is the lake is managed by Game Fish and Parks. It's been managed as a fishery, and beginning with some recommendations as early as 1927 by Overman Churchill, reference Mr. Emmons made. That lake has basically been managed as a fishery, trying to establish a stable level by the Game Fish and Parks.
Would they also be responsible for the other beneficial uses and not just the fisheries?
I'd assume so.
And if I can have you begin looking at your section involved with the investigative report that you prepared. You mentioned the concept of eutrophication. Can you please, eutrophication, and I can spell that, E-U-T-R-O-P-H-I-C-A-T-I-O-N. Could you please explain that concept to the board?
Okay. Eutrophication is basically a natural process. It's how lakes or water bodies accumulate silt and organic matter as they age. An older lake has had a longer time to accumulate silt and organic matter, thereby allowing for more plant growth. A younger lake tends to be a bit clearer in the water content, as the water column as you look through it. It would not have as much nutrient growth, it would not have as much plant growth, but it's a natural process that basically the lakes undergo through their lifetime, which may be hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of years.
In the grand scheme of things, how old is, or young, is Lake Poncet?
Pat addressed that. It was deposited in the last initial melt, and that'd be thousands.
So it's an older lake?
Yeah.
Now you said that eutrophication is a natural process. Is it completely natural?
It is a natural process. It can be accelerated by human activity. Humans tend to alter the land. We like to alter the land a lot. It depends on what we're doing. This can occur in a number of different ways. When we plow, certainly tearing up vegetation, that allows more erosion events potentially to occur, more soil to wash into a lake. by having stormwater discharges that come from cities. You certainly would have a certain amount of material that comes from the cities. Wastewater treatment plants, or before we required wastewater treatment plants, there was a certain amount of nutrients that were allowed to flow in, and the introduction of herbicides and fertilizers certainly has affected the availability of nutrients in the environment. So we can accelerate the process by providing more of these, which then get washed into lakes. One of the places that you've probably seen this the most is when it golfs. What is one of the issues you have later in the year? You tend to get a lot of that fertilizer in systems will start to wash into the water traps, and they start to get a little greener, a little more growth, but you tend to have a lot more nutrients available because they want to keep the greens very nice and green in these areas.
Well, how do these nutrients and whatnot that are provided by humans or human activity, how do they affect water quality?
Basically, the nutrients can provide for plant growth when other conditions are right. So the other conditions you're looking at, available sunlight, obviously a sufficient amount of nutrient available in order to start the growth and sustain the growth. Sufficient temperature and oxygen levels certainly will affect the ability of a water body to actually produce that growth. But as far as the nutrients themselves, individual nutrients would have different effects on say aquatic life. I know unionized ammonia is very, very hazard to the salmonid fish, the minnows. And that is why it has a very low criteria established for its, can't think of the right word, regulation.
You can tell you're a scientist or a teacher when you can't think of the word minnows, but you come up with the genus name of the fish. Now, there's been some talk, and there'll be some further testimony as to some recent plant growth that's been occurring in Lake Poncet. I believe that we're probably going to hear DENR representatives say that that's a beneficial activity, but how is what's been occurring in Lake Poncet within the last few years to create this new plant growth? How has that occurred?
As the lake level has dropped, Mr. Amundsen referred to this diagram, as it gets lower and lower, there's more sections of the bottom which actually have the shafts of sunlight actually able to reach that bottom area. I think DNR will probably show some Secchi disc levels showing how far that sunlight can now reach into the lake. And by providing the sunlight to the nutrient-rich sediments which are there, the lower levels of the lake, you can get algae growth, you can get plant growth that hasn't occurred before because now you have the sunlight getting down there, so that's one more factor that we're looking at there.
Now, in this sediment, I understand that phosphorus is required for plant growth. What is the effect of having plants grow in areas or more areas that would not normally have received sunlight and allow these plants to grow?
Have you entered my exhibits over here?
Nope. Well, if you start bringing them up.
Okay. That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to bring this one up here. This one's listed as number 9.
I believe there's a stipulation